right, welcome back, Warriors of Change, to another uplifting episode of Break Through the Better. This is Busy Babe, your dedicated host, and today we'll be journeying off the beaten path. Our topic, exploring away from the norm to find purpose. In life, it's easy to follow the tried and true, the comfortable, the accepted, but sometimes to find our true purpose, we need to take the road less traveled. This episode is all about daring to step outside the norm, challenging societal expectations, and finding your own unique path in life. We're going to explore the power of embracing the different, the unorthodox, the unique, and how it can lead to discovering a deeper sense of purpose in our lives. So, brave explorers, are you ready to venture away from the norm and find your true purpose? Let's embark on this journey together right here on Break Through the Better. P.S. We're doing a giveaway raffle every week for those that leave reviews and comments below. This week's giveaway is brought to you by Layered Jewelry, affordable, stylish, quality pieces that let you express your unique style. This week's winner is getting a piece of their choice. All right, let's get into it. Today we have a very special guest talking about breaking away from societal norms, and this is Amy Stubbs. I can't think of a better person to talk about this with because she is absolutely fearless in doing the things that is best for her life and just being like, I don't care what other people think because you know what? I'm going to do what makes me happy. And I don't care if anyone else thinks it's the wrong thing. I know it's the right thing. So, Amy, please introduce yourself and we'll get into it.
Thank you so much, Donna, for having me on the podcast. My name is Amy Stubbs, like Donna mentioned. Super excited to be here today. And yeah, just growing up, I was always kind of like the odd child. I mean, I was pretty like calm-natured, I guess, but I always kind of just knew like what I wanted. So I was always a little more feisty, like in a calm way, but feisty. I kind of just knew what I wanted. So yeah, that's just growing up was pretty good, I would say.
It's all good. My eyes are tearing, so we're gonna edit all of this. I don't know why I started crying. Anyway, so I'll ask you a question. So what kind of was the first indication when you were growing up knowing that you were different? Like, what was the thing that happened in your life that you're like, oh wait, I'm kind of not like everybody else?
I guess I just always like had a different way that I thought in my head. And I just kind of like go out on my own sometimes and like talk to myself. I don't know if that sounds weird.
I think that's pretty healthy to talk to yourself. I know we always like kid like, oh, you're talking to yourself, you know, like that's crazy, but I feel like the healthiest people, or at least mentally healthy people, talk to themselves. I feel like that should be normal. That should be normalized. But yeah, I mean, it's really great that we are going outside of our norms and seeking that different thing out there, and I love the fact that there are some people who it does not faze them at all to just go off the beaten path and just, go after what they want. But then there are some people who struggle with dealing with what other people will think or, societal norms or going, against the grain and kind of rubbing people the wrong way. And especially from my point of view as like a chronic people pleaser in the past, like I can definitely say that, like wanting to like make everything okay for everybody else is definitely a deterrent when it comes to doing something against the grain. But coming from your standpoint, like what would you say to someone who's struggling with the opinions of other people? Like what advice would you give to that person to go against the norm?
Yeah, I've definitely struggled with this a lot. I was a very people pleaser for a long time. It was something that I had to work on a lot. I guess what I would say is just not caring what people think is very healthy. Because if you're always thinking, like, what are they thinking about me, or I probably look weird or whatever, they're usually not thinking that. They're usually thinking how they look. So, like, everybody's going around thinking about how they look if they look weird to someone else. So they're not even thinking about you. Um, so yeah, I guess I'd just say, just don't care what people think. Just make your decision. So if you make a decision, it's not like the right decision. It's more powerful that you made that decision than you not making a decision, if that makes sense.
Oh, that's very true. Um, it's kind of like, imagine if like Martin Luther King was going back and forth on whether he should march on Washington and make a speech, instead of just being like, no, we're doing it. I don't care what everybody else thinks or my safety or anything like that. Like, he just did it. Um, and I can't think of an alternate universe in which he would have been like, I don't know, and then just ended up not doing anything at all. Um, and it's funny when you said, like, just don't care what other people are thinking about you in the moment, because they're probably thinking about themselves. It reminded me of this one audio I was listening to. This trainer, this guy was like very, very much in his head about what people thought about him and, what people would say. And, he went off the beaten path, the entrepreneurial path. And to get that out of his head, he actually went to the airport with this big backpack. And he would literally just do these like outrageous things with the backpack on. Like, he would just like do lunges and like walk around like this. And like, he did it because he knew that he was drawing attention to himself and people would look at him like, what is that guy doing? He's crazy. But he like put himself through that over and over and over again until he felt like, I don't really care what anyone thinks. And I think that's another way to get over it. It's just doing it over and over and over again until you realize you didn't die. And, the world isn't ending. Like, there's not going to be a big explosion at the end of doing something that you think is going to be catastrophic to your, reputation or life or whatever. But, like, just doing the thing over and over. And, I mean, is that how you basically overcame your fear, I guess, of other people's opinions, is just by doing it over and over again?
Yeah, I definitely would say that. And just like putting myself out there. Because I grew up very sheltered, so I wasn't around a lot of people. I was mostly around like family. And so just putting myself out there. So one thing that I did was um, I really wanted to learn how to like do country swing dance. So me and my sisters all decided together that we were going to go and, do lessons. And it was like very out of my comfort zone. And I would literally have like panic attacks before we go in there. I mean, it wasn't like anything too crazy, but I would have to breathe. And just doing it over and over and over helped me a lot just to be around people. And it was a lot of fun too in the end. So I guess that's an example of that.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the things that we're afraid to do, when we do them, we want to do them again, which is ironic because we were so afraid to do them in the first place, and then all of a sudden, we want to keep doing it. It's funny because like I was so afraid of roller coasters for the longest time. I refused to go on anything that was fast. And the first real roller coaster I ever went on was one called King Ka, and it's the tallest, fastest roller coaster in the world at the time. And I was like, sure, let's go on this one for the first time. And as soon as I like came off of it, I was like, I want to do that again. And I just thought it was so ironic. I spent most of my life depriving myself of that like fun experience because I thought that, the world would end or like I would die or something. Um, and it's so weird how our brain tricks us into thinking that these things are like life killing when really they're life giving.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. So,
Yeah, and I think your brain does too, just like it's trying to protect you. So it builds all this fear just trying to protect you. And so you just have to tell it to shut up and just do it anyways. Because like you said, it's after you do it, you're like, that was so fun. Like I could totally do that again. So
yeah, exactly. It comes in very handy when like you have I guess like a job or occupation where you have to push yourself past your comfort zone in order to succeed. Because there are a lot of jobs out there where like you never have to push yourself farther than where you're comfortable at. You just go in, you do your jobs, you come home, and that's the end of it. But there are a lot of jobs out there that you have to push yourself to grow. Otherwise, you can't succeed. You can't reach new levels. And I know myself and yourself included, we're very entrepreneurial and we like to push ourselves. And I don't know if that's like not a hereditary trait, but like something you're born with, or if that's just something you can grow into. I know a lot of people say like not everybody can be an entrepreneur, but I would argue that everybody can be an entrepreneur. It's just a muscle you have to flex. And I don't think we teach people to flex those muscles when we're in school or when we're trained to go to a job, because we're so ingrained to like follow the rules and do this, this, and this at this, and this time that we don't even think that there's another way to do things. And like, what was your, I guess, first exposure to entrepreneurism? Like once you realized that, oh wait, there's something out there that I can go towards.
Yeah. So I definitely had just a very like specific way I thought just from growing up sheltered. I didn't really think outside the box. I just knew like a few people. So my first encounter to self-development was Danielle Shapley. She actually posted on her TikTok um, about this like 5-day free challenge that was going on with like Dean Graziosi, Tony Robbins, a few of those ones, and it was free. And I'd never done anything like that, but I was like, Danielle's doing it. It's probably good. So I clicked on it, signed up, and I did that. Played full out for the 5 days, and it really shifted my mindset. Just like realizing that there was people out there doing bigger things, and it just opened up my mind and made me realize that I could actually think on my own for myself. Just because before I didn't really think on my own, I kind of just did what I was told, I guess. So just to be able to think on my own, I was like, this is so crazy. But I was 18 at the time, so that was my first encounter to self-development.
That's awesome. I like hearing people's like first encounters with a different way of thinking, because everybody it comes to it in a different way, whether it's like, one of those personal development things, or whether it's just like you just kind of break one day and you're like, I can't do this anymore, and then you actively search for like something else. And either way is good, because I think we all give ourselves the way that we need to get the information. Because it's funny, because I was just telling my mom, like, I'm the kind of person who needs to like touch the flame and then get burnt, and then I learned my lesson before, like I wasn't drinking a lot of water, and now, getting like a little bit of a kidney stone, like now I'm like chugging water like crazy, because now I know the consequences of not drinking water. So it's the same thing, like finding new ways of thinking. It's like sometimes people just need to break in order to break through. No pun intended. But yeah. And I think it's interesting that like we have to discover all of these different ways in life, because that's the only way we find our true purpose in life. And like for yourself, um, like was there a moment in your life where you kind of was like, this is what I want to do, or this is my purpose in life? Was there ever like a breakthrough moment for you where you're like, this is what I'm meant to do?
It's definitely been a journey over the years, just trying to figure out like what I want. Um, but I definitely, I definitely, ever since I did that challenge, it just made me think bigger and it made me want to grow. So I've always just known that I don't want to just be sitting there, because you're going backwards if you're not doing anything. So I always just wanted to be growing, figuring out the next step, which I feel like I've done pretty good with that. um, but yeah, and just continue to do the same things, or continue to do more, so that I can continue to grow.
Yeah. I mean, just working with you closely, I can definitely see you've been growing over the last few. I don't even know how much time because I can't do time, but I think it's been months. I don't.
Yeah,
It feels
like
like forever already,
3 months.
but
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's just like doing new things, like you said, just doing new things and then growing into a different version of yourself, and then also taking even more like outside of your box and being like, oh wait, there's like all these other things that I haven't learned yet. And sometimes that can get overwhelming, I think, because like we're like, what don't I know, you know? And I, I'm gonna totally like mess up this quote of this audio or whatever, but someone was like, well, the only difference between me and you and the person was like really wealthy or whatever is that like there's one thing that you don't have in your brain that you don't know yet. And that's the only difference between me and you is that you haven't come across that one idea yet that will get you to where I am. And I thought that was kind of inspiring, but also frustrating at the same time because I'm like, I always need that one thing, you know, and you keep looking for it. But I think that forces you to kind of like keep growing until you find that thing. Because if you found it really quickly, you probably wouldn't continue to like put yourself through all that discomfort in order to find it. And I think it's it's funny how we're wired to like want to see the shortcut in life most of the times. And we just want to like we want everything now. And it's definitely a problem more so in like future generations where our attention spans are like, you know, really, really, really small. And now, like, you know, people are like, we just want all the fame and the fortune and the wealth and success to come now. Um, but the only way we get that is through putting ourselves through that discomfort, through looking at things from a different way, from discovering purpose, from challenging norms. And people are like, nah, it's okay. I just want the good stuff, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I guess like what was one of the hardest things that you have to go through um, in kind of breaking away from the norm? Like what do you think was the biggest thing that challenged you in that?
I guess when you start to grow, then people around you that aren't growing, they start to look at you differently and they think that you're trying to be like up on this high top tier. Um, I guess that's probably the hardest thing is I'm not trying to be up on that top tier, but I know that I've grown more. And so when people come at you like you think you're better than us, you think you're so much more good. That's probably the hardest thing for me to get over is just getting them to understand that that's not how I'm trying to be. I'm just wanting to grow, and if they don't want to grow with me, then it's a little bit harder to come down onto their level, and you just notice so many different things when you start to grow. So that's probably the hardest for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's that crab mentality, I guess, is like I love that story. It freaks me out, but I love it at the same time. Is that like crabs? If one crab tries to get out of the pan or the bowl or whatever, like all the other crabs will try to pull it back down, and if it does like make it all the way, it deems it a threat, and they try to like attack it. So it's very similar to like human mentality where I feel like a few things happen when people see you succeed or grow or change. And one of those is they're reminded of the things that they're not doing in their life. And that can kind of be a hard thing to come face to face with because you can BS everybody else as to why you're not growing or successful or where you want to be, but you can't BS yourself. And that's kind of when you have to start pointing fingers at something else or someone else. And that's the only way you can kind of make up for it is just by being like, well, you know, if I had, I don't know, 2 more inches of height, maybe I would be more successful. Or like, you know, if I had blue eyes, you know, well, that would be easier. And we keep doing that because we don't like the fact that we're just not doing the things that we know we should be doing. And people growing kind of creates that gap, and now it's visible. And then we kind of just like attack whatever we can to like stay where we're at. And even if you're at a place where like you are miserable and you are in pain, you still want to be there because it's familiar and it's comfortable. And I think that's what kills me the most about those people, is that they're choosing this life of misery and pain over a life that could be so much better for themselves, only because they don't want to come to that conclusion that they're not doing what they could be doing. And it's just frustrating. Like you said, like it's frustrating to see those people kind of just not be able to grow. But it's not even because of any sort of limitation that's put on them. It's their own limitation. They're fighting for their own prison, which is mind blowing. What do you think about it?
Can I add on that?
Yeah.
Because one thing that stands out to me a lot is I listen to, it's called Beast Mode. It's like a motivation audio, and in it says like, so many people want to be a beast until it's time to do what beasts do. And it's so true, because so many people tell me that like their dreams, they want to do this, they want to do that. But when it comes right down to it, it's like, do you want to do the actual hard work? So it just kind of reminds me of that, because when you're growing and getting out of your comfort zone, it, like you were saying, it makes people, it's like it exposes them. So they're like, oh, I'm going to have to grow too. Like, I don't want to grow. You're going to make me grow. So they kind of come at you to try to pull you back down to their level, because they don't want to have to run up to that level with you. So.
Yeah, I think I've heard that actually before. I feel like I've watched that before because that sounds very familiar. Beast mode. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's just a universal thing. Like, no matter what culture you come from, no matter what background you come from, like, people don't like change. And it's funny because people who are successful like change. So there's some kind of like pattern there that maybe we should be following. Um, it's ironic because we're talking about breaking away from like norms, and I'm talking about following people, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it it's just like success leaves clues, right? Like that phrase everybody always says, like it's true, because if you take a look at all the successful people, they are always trying to change, to reinvent themselves. Um, I know I like literally bring Taylor Swift up every single episode, but like Taylor Swift is a great example of someone who constantly reinvents herself. And because of that ability to reinvent and to change and to grow, she's been successful, where other people have failed to grow and change and transform, and they kind of just are the flavor of the week. And I just think that's something that everybody can apply in their life, whether it's business, whether it's day to day, whether it's in between your relationships. Like, things have to grow, otherwise they're dying. And we don't like death, and we don't like change. So like some people are just like, well, what do I do then? You know, and people just stay the same and they die, but it's not by choice; it's involuntary. And
Yeah.
I
And
think
can I
that's
add
the
in there?
saddest stuff.
Sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Just with change, I know a lot, like people say they hate change, but change is always happening whether or not you're creating change. Like, everything is always growing and evolving. Like, when you're a kid, you don't stay a kid forever. You change, you grow up. And so a lot of people say, I hate change, but change, it's always happening anyways. So yeah, it happens anyways. So you might as well change for the better.
Exactly. It's funny because when you said when you grow up and we hate change, it's like you spend most of your teenage years wanting to be like 18 so you could drive and vote and do all that stuff. And then you can't wait till you're 21 And then you're like, oh, I can't wait till I can be old enough to like rent a car or rent a place. And then, after that, you're like, oh, I'm old. Like we look so much forward to growing older until, we're just like, nah, I don't want to change now. I'm good here. Like, just keep me here. When like we can still get excited about changing and growing, and I think it's just attached to the idea that when you get older, you get, how do I phrase this? Worse, I guess is the word I'm looking for. I feel like we equate age with getting worse, or like we equate it with like leftovers, that you leave out on like a counter, like they just kind of keep getting less and less desirable. And when we really should be equating age with like more knowledge, more experience, more power, more whatever you want in your life, more of. And we the only way we do that is through exploring outside of our norms. So full circle there. But yeah, I guess we're gonna probably wind down a little bit. But I guess for yourself, like, is there anything that you would want to mention to anyone out there who's listening who maybe is struggling with, breaking away from norms, or struggling with being alone on that path? Because very often when people go out of their norm, they're going out by themselves and not with other people. So is there any last words or, wisdom or whatever you want to say on the subject?
Yeah, I would just say, just go for it anyways. Because the path to success is lonely sometimes, but that's how you grow, and that's when you face yourself fully. And because most of the time we run away from all of our stuff that we need to face. So being alone is actually, like, feeling lonely is actually good because you face yourself a lot. So just get comfortable, I guess, with being lonely for a little bit and just work through all the stuff that you always ran away from. Because there's a reason why you're lonely on that path. It's gonna get you places. So, and I'm in the lonely path right now, so I feel that. I feel it very much. But just keep going and never give up. That would be my wisdom. Just keep going.
I love it. You are not alone. There's always someone out there. But yeah, that's all for today's episode of Break to Better, guys. We hope you found some insights and inspirations from the discussion as we continue exploring life's lessons and turning them into stepping stones for personal growth. So if you've enjoyed this episode, please spread the love, share it on your social media channels. Let's inspire others to also strive for their betterment. Be sure to tag us and use the hashtag #BreakThroughToBetter. Every share, every comment, every review helps us reach more people and make a wider impact. So until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and remember, when you get better, the world gets better. So thanks for tuning in, guys.